What's going on, gamers? I did this video a while back where I put in 20 or something different video game characters and YouTubers and stuff like that to a Hunger Games style battle royale and have them fight to the death. I thought it'd be fun to do that again, where I have fight to the death in a giant tournament double elimination bracket. Don't ask how there's two double eliminations for fights to the death. Find out who's the best video game character or YouTuber or whatever the frick I want to call them in this list. Obviously, I was the best overall, but of this list, God, going against Storyteller, them die. My interpretation of whether the song Storyteller or the streamer Douglas is more holy. It'd be really funny if Doug lost to Transfer. ATF is Amar the fucker. There's no honor there. The entire point of what Amar does is that there's no honor in what he does. Dragon Cinematic, the big, sick, awesome Battle Royale tournament. So the way this is gonna work is I have a tournament bracket thing here. I'm gonna put in all of our participants, and then I have this wheel of ways that they're gonna fight one another. We're gonna spin this wheel, and then spinning this wheel is gonna give us one of these different results. It's basically a way to compare the two of them. So who is more holy is an example. And then we're gonna give each person 3 lives, and we're gonna have them duel to the death. We're gonna spin this wheel however many times it takes to determine who's gonna win. They can draw, but ideally they don't. The whole video is created in the vein of like a DougDoug stream. I'm trying really hard to not use AI, if you can't tell. Anyways, let's create our bracket real quick. I think it's fun to put DougDoug in here because he's the inspiration for these kind of challenges. I think Warden would also be pretty fun. We should probably put in Juggernaut, which was the namesake for this channel. We're gonna put the track Storyteller in there. We're gonna put in AndrewChicken because he's technically a deadlock streamer now. We're gonna put in Templar Assassin because I think that could have some like fun bouncing off Juggernaut. I think the idea of having a lone base wolf is really funny. I don't know how to spell Avishkar. Oh, what I did Marblr. Alright, Marblr's in the list. We're gonna do Quinn, Dota 2, and then ATF as well. We have one more slot, so we're gonna put in chat. Alright, gamers, you know the players, you know the game. Let's go into this. The big, sick, awesome Battle Royale tournament. So chat, ATF, Quinn, and Templar Assassin are automatically in good position. That's fine. Those 4 are fine. God, going against Storyteller. Planned. Rigged. So we have Marblr going up against Juggernaut. 07 Marblr, you're gonna freaking die. Alright, DougDoug versus Storyteller. Who's gonna win this? What's the first battle? What's the first comparison we're gonna make? Okay, better aura. That one's gotta go to Storyteller. Alright. Oh, who has the better aura? Yeah, okay. No. This one absolutely goes to Storyteller. Doug absolutely loses so much for that. The contestants face off again. Storyteller with its sick beat, and DougDoug with the pepper is how do they fight the second time? DougDoug picks himself up and is like, you cannot oh, results is +1 to top and then one that's +1 to bottom. So because DougDoug's on the top and we just rolled +1 to top, he gets the heart they just lost back. DougDoug's like, Storyteller, my old friend. And Storyteller sucker punches Doug. Doug falls to the ground, covering his face, like, how could you do this to me? And Storyteller's like, we were never friends, Doug. And Doug picks himself up, looks at Storyteller, is like, how could you? I always trusted you, Storyteller. And he gains the energy to fight once more. Okay, DougDoug picks himself back up, regains his heart, regains his courage to fight. They face off again. More honorable. Okay, given our scenario, given the fact that we said that Storyteller came in, sucker punched Doug to the ground, I think we say that Doug like looks at Storyteller with like hatred in his eyes. And Storyteller feels like a deep pain in his heart. Like, oh man, I beat down my friend. But that's gonna be a hard way from Storyteller. And they duel once more. Sickest background? Alright, I think Storyteller wins this one. Storyteller clutches his traps. After all that I've gone through, your words sting more than any of the past that I can think of. And Douglas realizes the pain that he's inflicted on his already pained friend. And it hurts Doug as well. They don't give up yet. They realize that they must push forward. So they duel once more for these two to fight again later. No way. Storyteller clutches his chest, takes a few steps backward, and Storyteller looks at Doug with like eyes like starting to water, like, you actually do still care. Storyteller's like, even though I beat you, my friend, even though I hurt you, you still care. This is not a duel of hatred, this is a duel of honor. Okay. Here's alright, there's a trade-off here. I think Storyteller's probably a better swordmaster. The battle theme, right? Doug's a pepper, but Storyteller's a song. Douglas is supposedly a guy, but I'm gonna give that to Storyteller. DougDoug is down to 1 heart. Storyteller realizes this is a battle of honor, decides to pull out his freaking sword and stabs Doug in the arm. Doug shifts backwards. They face off once more. This could be the final blow to Doug. Can Storyteller deliver the killing blow? Alright. Okay, canonically speaking, Guilty Gear has Bridget, which is like a huge representation for the trans community. However, That's not Storyteller. Storyteller doesn't have Bridget. And also, Doug has trans love, and his community is like genuinely probably some of the most supportive of the trans community in the entirety of Twitch. Regardless, I think this goes to DougDoug. Storyteller loses her heart. What do we say in the narrative this is? Do we say that like Doug gets stabbed in the shoulder or the arm or whatever, and it's like, ugh, I have allies, you know? That's what we're gonna say happens. Will help me in my journey. Alright, I don't think either of these guys will help me in my journey. That one's a bit ambiguous, by the way. I didn't specify. Doug gets stabbed in the shoulder. He looks at Storyteller. I have allies, you know. And then the attention, like the spotlight, like slowly incorporates me into the light, and they both look over at me, and I'm just like, hi. Okay, this question's very ambiguous. I'm not gonna explain it. We're gonna leave this one ambiguous. I think technically because this video was inspired by DougDoug, we give the point to Douglas and we take a heart from Storyteller. So then we roll again. I did say we could put ties. I think that's gonna be tie because I don't think either one of them is feasibly winning a duel. More holy. I think this might also be another tie. I'm not gonna have one of them die based on my interpretation of whether the song Storyteller or the streamer Douglas is more holy. Ooh! Oh, just barely. Better fit. Okay, so who do we? Okay, so I think Doug loses this. I think we give this point to Storyteller. And with that, Storyteller does a JoJo pose, and then Doug falls over. And with that, we have loser. Dude, imagine TA goes up against Juggernaut. That'd be insane. It's not like that's literally the reason for putting both of them in there. That would just be insane. How do I use this website? The game or sport being played. What the frick do we put here? The big, sick, awesome Battle Royale tournament. Storyteller moves on, DougDoug falls to the lower bracket. Alright, moving on to the next one. AndrewChicken versus Space Wolf. This one's gonna be interesting. Alright, spin the wheel. The two opponents look each other in their eyes. AndrewChicken against a freaking Space Marine Space Wolf. Okay, I think AndrewChicken panics, realizing that the Space Wolf has a crazy fit. And that immediately sets AndrewChicken aback. But AndrewChicken stays strong. He stands still, looking at the Space Wolf, and they face off once. They still continue to face off. Okay, AndrewChicken and the Space Wolf. AndrewChicken is like, oh crap, this Space Wolf got an insane fit. And then he takes a step back, and AndrewChicken's like, crap, the aura, and loses another heart. But he stands strong. He's barely alive, but he's facing this Space Wolf, and it freaking does it again. So we allow the same attack twice. The Space Wolf AndrewChicken via doing absolutely nothing. Alright, our next contestants, Avishkar versus Warden. I didn't prepare for that. Warden somehow summons in a fourth heart and is immediately ahead of Avishkar without having done any damage to Avishkar. Warden and Avishkar face off against one another, like literal magical energy emanating around these two. And Warden speaks to self. Self must not fail. Self grows from the self's own words. The self grows because the self believes it grows. More honorable. Okay, so canonically, Avishkar kills anything even remotely walking its path, and Warden is incredibly freaking honorable. If you play Dota at all, no debate, Warden wins this one. But how do they fight? Better magic wielder. I think I'll give it to Avishkar for a second just for the story, and also because I want to ask, do we give Warden 4 hearts going to the next battle? I think we do that. I think Warden gets to keep the 4th heart for right now. Avishkar, the magical energy raiding up his legs, and Avishkar blows it apart, and it damages Warden. No way! Avishkar. So the magical energy is creeping up Avishkar's leg. Avishkar blows away the magical energy, and that ripple effect waves itself into Warden, and Warden like takes a step back, abrupted, and Avishkar looks up, and Warden realizes that the damage that Self thought was done to Avishkar only on the surface. Better Swordmaster, but Warden, being Self, would actually have a lot of knowledge on how to use swords. So this point goes definitively to Warden, and then summons a magical, Spark Wraith with a sword, and stabs Avishkar in the back. And before Avishkar can properly react, Spark Wraith withdraws the sword, making Avishkar recoil in pain, and then strikes it down, bringing it back down on Avishkar's shoulders. Avishkar loses another heart, because we said you can do multiple things at once. Avishkar looks up, he's like slightly knelt down from the pain. He looks at the Spark Wraith, he looks at Warden, and Warden says something along the lines of like, do not be selfish. As the Spark Wraith raises the sword that it holds high and strikes Avishkar down with a final killing blow. Arc 1's the winner, and Avishkar moves on to the lower bracket. I need to speed things up. Marblr versus Juggernaut. That's an insane one. Good frickin' luck, Marblr 07. Marblr and Juggernaut stare off against one another. Marblr, the inanimate form, versus Juggernaut. In Dota's world, one of the canonically best swordsmen in Dota's world. Better fit? Alright, here's the thing. Juggernaut goes really hard. Marblr is inanimate. So there is some fit whenever you're like a vapor cloud immaterial form. There is some fit going on there, don't get me wrong. But I think Juggernaut wins this. I think Marblr is going to take a heart. But they stay strong. They stare at one another, ready to fight once more. Oh, wait. Oh, shit, wait, hang on. So Marblr, and he regains the heart that he lost. And they go after one another, each lunging at one another, going for one another's throat, or whatever Marblr's throat would be in this situation. And Juggernaut, the ever-prowess swordman that Juggernaut is, they lunge for each other's throat. And Juggernaut, with a swift flash of his blade, cuts across Marblr. The vapor cloud seemed to trail behind Juggernaut's blade, but it does damage to Marblr's immaterial form, taking a heart away from him. Okay, that's hype. That's hype. Marblr's head, Juggernaut's tails. Heads! Okay! They look back at one another. The vapor cloud of Marblr, although there's no face, there's no way to tell an expression, something about it just seems angry. It seems like it's fuming with rage after the blow that Juggernaut just delivered on him. The two run back at each other, lunge, strike. Marblr's form rushes across Juggernaut, seeming to strike a million small cuts, almost like Juggernaut's Omni Slash, and it takes down a heart from Juggernaut. Okay, I think this one goes to Juggernaut. This one goes to Juggernaut. Marblr loses a heart. It's looking grim for Marblr. Oh shit! Marblr's fate might be decided by this 50-50. Marblr's weakened state stares at Juggernaut, and Juggernaut stares back at Marblr, and they realize that one strike is all it takes to bring down Marblr, but can Marblr dodge the blow? Once again, heads is Marblr, tails is Juggernaut. And Marblr dodges the blow! Juggernaut loses another heart. It's anyone's game. This might be it. And with that, like a scene straight out of Avatar, all the previous ancestors of Juggernaut seem to appear around Juggernaut's form. Spirits seem to guide on, encourage Juggernaut. His blade seeming to glow a radiant energy like in this image. He raises his blade, poised at Marblr. Marblr looks around, no path left to turn to escape. One by one, all of the ancestors of Juggernaut raise their own blades, all pointing down towards Marblr. And a single slash, one that doesn't even seem like it follows a physical form, heads straight for Marblr, faster than Marblr can react, decimating the cloud that Marblr takes, destroying it. And Juggernaut stands there on the brink of death, having just won the duel. 07 Marblr, but that was a lot closer fight than I thought it was going to be. And with that, the first round's complete. We haven't even gotten to the second wave of characters yet. We go on to round number 5. Templar Assassin versus Storyteller. This one will be interesting. Maybe. I don't know. It might not be. Two face off. Templar Assassin having fought many foes, but Storyteller ready for this. Storyteller encouraged by feeding his foe / friend DougDoug, and with that, he gained an extra heart. This goes to TA. I don't know what chivalry fully is, but we're gonna absolutely say yes. I think it's like Bushido. I think it's a code. A side blade bounces around like the storm arrow in the Dragon cinematic, and out of nowhere it strikes Storyteller on his shoulder, but enough to do 1 heart of damage. Storyteller looks back at Templar Assassin. Okay, we're saying the same attack can happen multiple times, I guess. Templar Assassin is wanting to remind Storyteller he is beneath Templar Assassin. He's feeling a little bit bad. He's feeling a little bit rough. Storyteller ever filled with lust for power, but Templar Assassin, the incredibly dutiful, devout, untemptable assassin. She uses this lust for power that Storyteller has to her advantage. Templar Assassin activates a trap, dealing another heart of damage to Storyteller as a side blade goes dashing through the air towards Storyteller, slashing him across the ribs. Okay, remember the argument I made earlier about how Storyteller is a song, but DougDoug is a pepper? Storyteller is still a song, but TA is a assassin. So, in a fatal blow, TA wins this uncontested 0-3. Quinn versus the Space Wolf. This one might be interesting. They face off against one another. Okay, Quinn, having been told the threat this Space Wolf is, reminds the Space Wolf that Quinn has allies. And then a trans person comes out of nowhere and just sends a dagger straight through spaces in between armor plates and the Space Wolf, taking a heart out. Space Wolf like recoils a little bit, looking down at the trans person like, where the frick did you come from? Oh no! Quinn is like, oh no. Quinn realizes now the aura and loses a heart based solely off of it. I mean, out of Quinn and Space Wolf. I'm not narrating whatever that one means, because they stare off against one another. Quinn takes a bit more damage from the aura. Will help me in my journey. Not the Space Wolf, and then the Space Wolf takes damage. That's how that happens. It's actually looking pretty grim now. This is anyone's game. A single blow can decide this. But the Space Wolf. Unfortunately, Quinn invites the Space Wolf to do a 1v1 mid lane, and then the Space Wolf responds by just taking the last heart of Quinn. That was close. ATF and Arc Warden. That's an interesting combination. ATF and Arc Warden look at each other, standing across the battlefield. You could consider one of the best offlaners in Dota 2 versus a literal radiating energy for. You have a third of self standing before Amar. What's the first blow going to be? Okay. Amar's an offlaner. There's no honor in being an offlaner. The entire point of... Okay, Amar's title, ATF, is Amar the fucker. There's no honor there. The entire point of what Amar does is that there's no honor in what he does. They stand before one another, and Amar realizes slightly outpowered by Arc Warden, and that alone takes away a heart from Amar. They stare at one another, ready to strike blows. Who's gonna win this? Listen, if Amar was fighting most of the other cast, I'd probably say Amar would win this, but it's Arc Warden. Once again, I appear in the corner, I'm like, hi. And Amar's like, hey. Amar looks at me like, hey, do you need help? And I'm like, yeah. Amar's like, I can help you. And then Arc Warden's like, self is helped because self believes it's help. And then that like damages Amar. I mean, if you think about Arc Warden in a particular way, that one's kind of a tie, so we're just gonna say that unfortunately succumbs uncontested, as Arc Warden just spawns in a Spark Wraith beneath Amar, and it just detonates. And with that, Arc Warden wins 3-0. Alright, chat versus Juggernaut, but they stand off ready to face one another. And chat, if we're imagining in this picture, there's like 40 people of chat standing around looking at Juggernaut, half of them run away, because they're like, they don't want to fight this. But the other half, being honorable and willing to give it a shot, willing to give Juggernaut a fair fight, they stay. But unfortunately, the strength is weakened. They stand still looking at each other. Who is top in this? I think top is chat, right? Yeah, the remaining half, they stand still, ready to face Juggernaut. They kindle their strength. They stand still looking at one another. And the strength of chat continues to grow, and chat gains an extra heart. Also, Arc Warden should have had an extra heart this last fight. They both lunge at each other, ready to strike. Juggernaut wins this. You can try to argue, but there's a lot of chat. Blade Fury. Spin around, you guys aren't going to be able to do anything against Juggernaut. And does Blade Fury, spinning in a circle, losing a heart, losing that extra heart they had. They realize now Juggernaut is still a fierce opponent. Even though chat outnumbers Juggernaut, Juggernaut has the ability to deal with spam. Blade Fury finishes, wiping through the crowd. They're kind of like dispersed. They're looking at Juggernaut, but they're ready to strike again. But Juggernaut looks at all of them. Once again, similar to TA, a smile that cannot be seen but is known spreads amongst the chat. Juggernaut realizes his own prowess against chat, realizes that he outweighs chat, and grows confident, gaining an extra heart. They look at one another now, and once again, they both lunge at each other, striking. But Juggernaut, one guy gets boom, cut down, and the guys around get blown back. Chat loses another heart. Okay, well, we know chat ain't winning this one. Juggernaut, all his time training to be a samurai, paying honor to like Dota shrines or whatever. I don't know how the Isle of Mass exactly works. Taking down yet another heart. It's looking grim for chat. Okay, there's a lot of stuff's happening this one. The bolstering strength of chat as more shadow clones suddenly start to almost like materialize or something. I don't know how we went from like 40 chat members to now shadow clones, but more shadow clones poised to strike as Juggernaut looks at them all, ready to take them on. Well, chat's not winning that one either. The benefit of chat is there's a lot of chat. Downside of chat is they lose any honorability and things. Chat has no ability to resist temptation. Chat's back to looking grim. This final strike, it might be the last one. The last few chat members are getting together. But then, Juggernaut, chat, there's just so many of them. It feels like he's fighting an army of samurai. More shadow clones revivify. Why is chat not dying? Once again, the ancestors of Juggernaut gather around Juggernaut. He strikes one down, strikes another down, but there's so many. But the ancestors of Juggernaut join in, and they start striking their own shadow clones down. And chat loses another heart, but they continue to close in around Juggernaut. Is there an opening? Ancestors almost act as shields, each one blocking blows, and Juggernaut effectively gains another heart. I mean, either way, one blow, poised to strike Juggernaut, looking for any opening amongst the ancestors, and Juggernaut raises his blade and strikes that last chat member down, killing the chat member. Like, I don't even know how many hearts went back and forth throughout all this. Okay, Juggernaut's not gonna keep these hearts, but we will say that this additional heart will come into play if anything comes up later on about getting ancestors. But Juggernaut is victorious with a 5-0. The next opponents faced off Storyteller versus Marblr. They look at each other, ready to strike. I think Storyteller wins this one. Storyteller whips out his sword, cuts down Marblr a little bit. They're ready to strike again, each one raising their weapons. You know what? We'll spin it again. That one's a tie. Wait, earlier I think... Oh no. Wait, I think Space Wolf won, because I think I misinterpreted this one. The way that we're doing this is that all of these are, whoever like answers the questions, they are the one that wins that exchange of blows, and so the other person takes the damage. Earlier, we determined that Quinn was the bottom for the Space Wolf, so I think actually, technically, hold on, go back to the bracket. Quinn actually won against the Space Wolf. Doing a little bit of revisionist history here. I misread the question. I didn't realize bottoms win. Alright, I gotta be. Technically, Marblr's bottom wins this. I'm not gonna narrate how that happens. They strike blows, and then I think the way I'm gonna rule this is Storyteller's more honorable. If we get more chivalrous, that's gonna go to Marblr. Marblr just stands, strikes a JoJo pose, and goes like, something about honor or something, and then Marblr loses her heart. I'm gonna try to be quicker on these mid levels. They go to strike another set of blows. Marblr's looking low. Okay, that's not fair. It's the same one. Okay, I'm gonna re-roll this because I'm gonna say you can't. For losers bracket, this is going to be very specific. Losers bracket, you cannot kill someone off the same attack twice. Ah, almost. 07 Marblr, you were kind of putting in here for cannon fodder, but I wanted to see how far you would go. With that, Storyteller wins 2-0. Okay, this one I don't care all that much about. It's a lone Space Wolf against Avishkar. They look at each other. Avishkar, the magic wielder, Space Wolf, a very probably pretty prowess in like blades and stuff like that. I don't remember in Avishkar's lore. Avishkar probably has something in the 40 pages of backstory that Zach Bold never released first. Probably has something about like holiness, but generally no. I'm gonna give this to Space Wolf. Avishkar goes to strike again as the Space Wolf pulls back and goes for another strike. Either way, I think, yeah, this goes to Space Wolf. Space Wolf stands back, let Avishkar throw a bolt of energy against the Space Wolf, which just bounces off the armor. And then Avishkar takes a heart out of, like, pure psychic damage. But they go to strike again. Okay, just barely. We almost had to play in the rule again. Better Swordmaster? Yeah, that goes to Space Wolf, delivering a killing blow. Avishkar is dead. Space Wolf's moving on. Another 3-0 for the Space Wolf, which is cringe, by the way. ATF versus the Chicken. Both of them start with A. I think this one will be interesting. They're both poised to strike, ready. They're both adapt in the world of streaming. This is where the similarities end, though. They're ready to fight. Ready for battle. No, listen, I don't mean anything bad. AndrewChicken's keeping in line with how, like, the trans rights one works. AndrewChicken, like, looks at Amar and is like, Amar, I have friends. And then Amar takes damage. But the Amar faces off against AndrewChicken. They both lunge at each other, ready to fight. I think this one goes to AndrewChicken as well. I think AndrewChicken's probably more of a Mountain Dew fan. Although I think he's made statements hang on. Although they're both gamers. I think it goes to AndrewChicken, but out of respect and honor for ATF, I'm gonna say that goes both ways. They both lunge to strike at one another, completely miss. They turn around, lunge again. Okay, here's the thing. If AndrewChicken was still making Paladins content, I might not have him in this tournament. But I might also, he would win this 100%. I'm gonna give this point to Amar. I think Amar, they see a dude over in the corner who goes like, hi, and Amar's like, yo, I offered you help previously. I want to live up to that. And then I come over and stab AndrewChicken in the side. That's what happens. 50-50. If it was more holy, Amar would have won that, because 50-50 is gonna be interesting. Head is Chicken, tails is Amar. Tails! Amar takes another one. Amar's blade finds true. It strikes blood and it takes down a heart for AndrewChicken. Ooh. This one might be interesting. I don't think AndrewChicken tweets that often, not anymore. But Amar like never tweets. Amar, am I following Amar? No, because his fucking thing is weird. His most recent tweet was July 30th, that's actually pretty recent. I don't remember this guy tweeting basically ever. When did AndrewChicken tweet? Does he tweet that he's live? 2024? Did he create a different thing? I think this is him. Okay. Yeah. No. That's a final blow. Amar looks over and goes, sorry kid, maybe you should be a little bit more vigilant. AndrewChicken doesn't really die. He's just waiting for he's waiting for revive. He's playing Terminus, he's just saving his ult. But that's a 2-0 for the Alright, the next one. These age-old enemies. Chat versus DougDoug. How do they strike the first blow? Could feasibly win a duel. I think Chat's probably gonna win that based off sheer numbers. So yeah, DougDoug takes a heart. Wow. Like neither one. Can I take a heart away from both of them? That's a tie. Okay, we said you could not eliminate someone with the same one. We did not say you could not get the same one in a loser's bracket one. It's like in a fighting game like Sleep Fighter or something like that, where you get a combo and you just boom, 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 boom on a stunned enemy. That's just what Twitch chat's doing against Doug. All right, this is looking grim for Doug. This is interesting. This one's interesting because Doug is, but one of the things about Doug being such a big ally is that Doug's chat is also a big ally. It'd be really funny if Doug lost to trans rights. I think that's really funny. Doug loses to trans rights. Yep. Okay, Storyteller versus Lone Space Wolf. Unfortunately for Storyteller, first blood goes to the Space Wolf as the Space Wolf rushes forward, picks up the axe, swings it down, cuts Storyteller for the first heart, dealing first blood of this duel. Ooh, yeah, no, this one's gonna go to the Space Wolf. This one's gonna go to the Space Wolf. Taking out another heart. It's looking grim for Storyteller, dude. Storyteller looks back, thinking if he can do anything. But Storyteller, being the song of the DougDoug community, it inherits some of the allyness. Walks over and stabs the Space Wolf in the back. Alright. Both are looking at one another, ready to strike again. Unfortunately for Storyteller, the Space Wolf brings down the axe for one final fatal blow, delivering the fatal blow to Storyteller irregardless. 2-0. Chad versus ATF. This one sounds... Alright, these two poise off against one another. They probably have many times before. Listen, this is not DougDoug's chat here. This is chat. Technically, it's you guys. I would give this to you if it was you guys, but I'm saying this is chat as a whole. I'm gonna say the trans community comes in support of Amar. Well, chat's not honorable, so this one is an easy Amar token. Another heart for chat down. It's looking grim for chat. Okay, well, chat's not doing that. So, yep, okay, that's gonna be the killing blow for chat. I might have to resume this later. Amar moves on to 3-0. Absolutely insane. Moving on is Templar Assassin versus Quinn. This is our next fight, Templar Assassin versus Quinn. The two contestants stare off against one another, a literal trained assassin and a guy that plays mid lane a lot. I think, okay, the way I'm gonna roll this is Quinn is probably a better magic wielder, because that's also one of the other options. Quinn is probably a better magic wielder, but Templar Assassin having side blades, probably a better blade user. So we gotta give this point to TA. TA sends a side blade straight down the middle, coursing across his body. Listen, I like Quinn, but I also like TA, so I'm personally rooting for TA for this one. Unbiased determinator of who wins these fights, by the way. But they both ready their blades once again. Almost. Quinn is still getting out this rapier. Before he has time to properly react, TA shoots off another side blade straight into Quinn, taking down another heart. Quinn's gotta do something if he wants to win this. Remember, Quinn is the guy that took down the Space Wolf, the guy who's been wrecking havoc in the lower bracket. What is he gonna do in a final stand? One heart remaining. Okay, again, this is no slander against TA whenever I say this. I just don't think TA even is where this exists. So I'm gonna say that what happens is Quinn, he gets struck by two side blades. He has his rapier out. He has Pengaloo's rapier out now. Slices down TA's back, cutting off one of her braids and also taking away her heart. It's still game point for Quinn. He's got one heart left. They face off again. Listen, if anyone knows the Juggernaut XTA ship, what like the dynamic of that ship is, like the roles each one plays, remember, for this one, bottom wins. So Quinn taking down one of her hearts. Alright, it's actually game point now. Whoever wins this takes the duel. And it's a 50 to determine it. Quinn is gonna be heads, TA is gonna be tails. It's down to this, it's down to the wire. It's tails. It's gonna be Templar Assassin taking out his last heart. What a freaking series, dude. TA wins 1-0. Man, what a close fight. Our next series, Warden versus Juggernaut. This is the namesake for the channel versus like one of the characters I quite like currently. I'm 100% biased in this, but understand, even Warden in-game canonically recognizes like the prowess that Juggernaut has. I'm gonna speak for Juggernaut for a second. He's like, yes, I am one of the best swordsmen in Dota world, but Warden's self. And so that leaves Warden to be a very competent foe for Juggernaut. They stand off against one another. They both stand off both overpowered, overstrength at the moment. Gonna deal the first blow. This one's really interesting because I think this one's also kind of a tie. I'm gonna do a coin flip for this one. I think heads, Juggernaut resists it better. Tails, Arc Warden resists it better. Juggernaut strikes forward, his blade going for Arc Warden, and it finds purchase against Arc Warden's armor. They both stand facing off against one another once more. I'm gonna give this to Arc Warden, I think. I think Arc Warden would be a Mountain Dew fan. Both are down to their normal state. They turn to face one another, ready to strike once more. Arc Warden revives their heart, but they haven't jumped at one another yet. Oh dear. And he gets another heart. They both turn to fight one another once more. I'm gonna give this one to Juggernaut, simply because Arc Warden is so far ahead at this point. Anyways, they lunge back at one another, ready to strike. What I'm gonna say is Juggernaut has the better fit, Arc Warden has the better aura. They both lunge at one another. Arc Warden tries to send a blow into Juggernaut, but Juggernaut's armor, like what little armor he has, completely blocks the blow, and he slices across Arc Warden. Arc Warden's armor not protecting him well enough, and he loses their heart. They're both back down to the normal state. Of freaking course they are. But Arc Warden chuckles, for he will not be topped, and he regains another heart, and they continue to lunge at one another again. Why does Arc Warden have so many freaking cards? Juggernaut's more chivalrous because of the Bushido code, and Arc Warden's more honorable. No, I think Juggernaut wins as both these. Juggernaut and stabs it straight into Arc Warden's chest. They both look at each other again, ready to strike, and Juggernaut taking out one of Arc Warden's hearts. Finally, some actual damage being done. Arc Warden pulls back, having taken the damage. He drinks another sip of Mountain Dew, revitalized, throws like a mobile spark ray straight at Juggernaut, striking Juggernaut, dealing a heart's worth of damage. Ooh, I think this one goes to Juggernaut. And it's like Omni Slash. There's a million slashing cuts from the ancestors, and they take away a heart from Arc Warden. Arc Warden is looking grim for Arc Warden. Juggernaut might pull this one out. Those three are just Juggernaut. And Juggernaut, not to humiliate his foe, he dashes forward. In this Omni Slash of ancestors coming down, striking Arc Warden. Juggernaut leaps into the air once more, and with a well-placed strike, slices Arc Warden in half, bringing down this current aspect of self temporarily. Arc Warden has won this duel. That one's freaking insane. Arc Warden got back like 50 freaking health from that. But Juggernaut wins 2-0. Quinn versus ATF. This one sounds interesting. This is a 1v1 mid lane. Ooh, okay, we know... Hang on. We know that ATF tweeted here at like the end of July. When did Quinn tweet? I think Quinn probably tweeted more recently. July 30th was Amar's most recent tweet. And Gaming Gladiators has tweeted a lot. But look at this. When was the last time Quinn tweeted? May 2nd. This point goes to Amar. Amar looks at Quinn and goes, "You getting lazy, son?" And the psychic damage, poof, it brings out a heart away from Quinn. They go back to farming, both trying to get denies, both trying to get last hits. But Quinn, being the bigger Mountain Dew drinker of the two, takes a sip of energy and uses it to deny a creep or something from Amar. They both continue this mid lane dance. I'm gonna give this one to I'll give this one to Quinn. Quinn goes, "I have friends," and Amar loses another heart. It's looking rough for Amar. But Amar, it takes down another heart from Quinn. It's looking grim for either one. This is it. This is anyone's game. Unless they get another heart. I think this one goes to Amar. Amar thinks about his career in Dota, and he uses it to channel his energy into a sick kill, bringing down Quinn. Amar wins, but very closely. 1-0. 0-7 Quinn. Amar, you're now poised to fight either Arc Warden or this freaking Space Wolf, so good luck, bro. This one sounds interesting. Arc Warden and the Space Wolf face off against one another. I think Arc Warden has this one. 50-50? Okay, heads is Space Wolf's, tails is Arc Warden. Space Wolf, first blood, immediately goes for a strike, but Arc Warden has his bonus heart. Not anymore, but they poise off once again. The blow recoiling off of Arc Warden. Once again, heads is Space Wolf, tails is Arc Warden. Another blow delivered, taking out a heart away from Arc Warden. Come on, buddy, you can't lose this. Arc Warden comes in, he goes, Sylph has allies, stabs the Lone Wolf. Poised off again. Oh, okay, yeah, no. Arc Warden, radiating magical energy, looks at the Space Wolf, and the Space Wolf just like minorly explodes. It's looking grim for the Space Wolf. Space Wolf has won both of these so far, but heads is Space Wolf, tails is Arc Warden. The Space Wolf winning these 50-50s does another blow to Arc Warden. It's anyone's game at this point, whoever wins this one. I'm rooting for Arc Warden. This goes to Arc Warden. Space Wolf, be gone. And the combined like radiant energy of like me and Arc Warden both like fuse, and it's like a rippling effect around the Space Wolf until boom, it blows the Space Wolf up. delivering the killing blow. Warden moves on. The extra heart that Warden had from like the very start is now helping him so much. Who's this bracket? ATF versus Warden. Oh dear. Somehow I didn't realize that this is a rematch. Two have fought already. The ATF was knocked to the lower bracket by Warden's immense amount of power. They're both looking at one another. Oh, this one. Remember, bottom wins, so Warden is extra hard at this point. Omar loses her heart, though. Again, offlaners, they don't have honor. Their thing is they don't have honor. Warden, through pure aura and honorability, does another blast radiant energy against Omar. Omar's on his back 2 feet. It's looking very grim for Omar. We'll give this one to Omar. They'll both poise off again. You can do the same attack, and it can deal damage. It just can't kill. Okay. In the images that I chose, I'm gonna give this one to MR. It's now anyone's game. +1 heart at the top, that's gonna be ATF. ATF gets a heart, baby. For the first time in a while, it looks like actually it's gonna be rough for Warden. ATF is actually pulling ahead. Warden had the extra heart at the start, but is looking rough for Warden now. Okay, now here's the question. ATF, absolute nerd, but I did say that Warden's thing was magic wielding. I don't know if I would say that Warden is a better sword master than ATF. We'll do the thing where we do one last spin. Because I'm not certain on it, I don't want to eliminate Warden just based off this. I want to give it another spin. ATF like pulls out a sword out of nowhere and like wildly flings at her Warden, but is it enough? I think Warden is more likely to resist the ring, but even that one's also kind of like a 50-50. We'll do another spin because I don't feel like either of those are like concrete answers. I think we just say that ATF takes Warden's last heart. ATF is going to be moving on to the final of the losers bracket. But I mean, even though it was 2-0, that still was a pretty close one because I'm not joking when I say the most interesting possible combination since a while. Biased commentator. These two as a ship is so freaking cute, dude. I don't know. These two ship, very cute. Juggernaut versus TA. The upper bracket semifinals. Let's see this, boys. They size off against one another. They both lunge at each other, trying to go for each other's throats, trying to get this first blood. I think this one goes to Juggernaut. I think this is a fairly safe one to give to Juggernaut. They both go for each other's throats. Juggernaut parries a side blade out of the way. Juggernaut slashes one of TA's like parts of like TA's like I don't know what you call this little bit right here, but it's part of this. I really hope I didn't. I probably just messed up the camera. Gosh dang it. And then I'm just over in the corner looking at them going like, hi. But they both bounce off one another. They both like land on the ground, get to their feet, stumbling, raise their blades back once more at one another. Canonically speaking, this is another big Juggernaut W. It's not looking good for TA so far. 2 hearts immediately down as Juggernaut runs forth, taking his sword and slashing again, cutting out one of like TA's hair pieces. It's looking rough for TA. Can she recover? Oh dear, that's not, hold up. Bottom's Juggernaut, as befitting. Juggernaut thinks about how he wants to win this duel. He gets the courage to gather the strength for another heart. They both facing away from each other from this last blow. TA like grasping at like the loose hair strands that Juggernaut cut away. Juggernaut turns to face TA. TA turns to face Juggernaut with anger in her eyes. This one goes to TA. I'll give this one to TA. Juggernaut, like I mentioned before I started this, Juggernaut doesn't really have an outfit. Juggernaut mustering the strength in himself to try to win, but TA, she takes out a side blade and throws it at a part that normally would be like covered by like clothing or something like that, like at his bare chest or something like that, but Juggernaut, having no outfit, gets slashed across his entire chest. TA smiles once again. You can see it in her eyes. Any second, any one of these could kill TA. I'm gonna give this one to TA, and the reason why is because TA in lore is supposed to be like a super big resist temptation. Like Juggernaut has like a lot of self-will and stuff like that, but TA literally trains to resist power. Juggernaut begins to get angry. Flames start to seep out of his eye sockets, and TA sees this and utilizes it to her advantage. Juggernaut runs at TA, jumping up in the air to try to slash down at her, but TA triggers a trap, damaging Juggernaut. TA's coming back, but there's still 2 hearts left. It's still in Juggernaut's favor. Now, the only thing that I'm gonna say here is, earlier I was talking about how these pairs work, how like one person might be more chivalrous, but then the other person might be more honorable because they're supposed to be like pairs of one another. I'm also going to be biased. I'm gonna give this one more spin. At this point in the game, no one can go out that easily through like that undeterminable of a thing. Alright, that one this probably just goes to Juggernaut. Juggernaut thinks of all of his ancestors, the reason that he's fighting to try to find his people. And with that, he fights through the slowing of the TA's trap and lunges once more, sending a sword straight across TA, taking down TA's last heart. But TA's not out of this yet. This is the upper bracket. TA is going to be moving on to fight ATF now. The next matchup, TA versus ATF. I did not expect ATF to get this far, but it's also really funny because like yes, a big portion of this roster was composed of Dota people, but like there were 5 Dota people at the start, and 3 of them have made it to the final 3, but only 1 can proceed from this match. TA versus ATF, they stare off at one another. TA, known for sometimes being able to flex to winning a carry, this is probably a safe lane versus off lane situation. They're both starting their laning phase. We're gonna give TA the benefit of the doubt and say TA is Radiant. TA, safe lane Radiant versus ATF, off lane Dire. Remember, the way this works is bottom win. Now this one's actually interesting because TA Juggernaut, Jugg's the bottom. ATF though, ATF's not gonna bottom. I don't think ATF would ever. I don't think you feasibly could get ATF to bottom. That's like a general like offlaners rules. I don't know if you could get any of them to. I think they would just simply refuse. But the only ship in which I think TA would be interested in being in a ship, yeah, that's words, that's logic. I think the only ship that TA would be interested in and like participating in would be Juggernaut TA, where she's the top. So I'm gonna call this one a tie, because I don't think either one is. Ooh, okay, this one's difficult. I think because the pair of this is better aura, I think we give this one to TA. Because I think ATF has the better aura out of the 2, but I think TA has the better fit. They size off against one another. ATF realizing that his opponent has a pretty darn cool outfit, and that weakens his muster, weakens his resolve a little bit. But they're still staring off against one another. They're still trading blows. They're still denying creeps. They're still trying to get last hits. I feel like the answer to this is pretty easy. I feel like the answer to this is fairly easy. ATF like denies a creep or something, or like does a little bit of harassment, and TA looks at ATF and is like, I have friends, taking away another heart. It's looking rough for ATF. Can he recover? There are a whole bunch of these like +1 hearts, but it doesn't look like this is gonna be one. I'm gonna say that TA takes this heart. But, okay, yeah, TA is more honorable. 100%. TA, again, there's no honor in being an off lane. TA has more honor here, 100%, and that would take away ATF's last heart. But I'm going to do one more thing. Because I didn't feel like the best about the previous one, I'm going to spin the wheel one more time. And if it's a confident ATF win, then we're going to say these 2 cancel each other out. The ATF like parries an attack or something like that. I don't know which one of these is a confident ATF win. That one might be, because here's the argument. ATF is a Dota player. Casting spells is called using your abilities. ATF's a better magic wielder. So the way I'm ruling this is ATF doesn't lose his last heart, he just keeps 0. This is just to give ATF any chance at winning this, because he's down to 1 heart. Remember what I said about pairs? I do think ATF is more chivalrous. I think that ATF, what like more chivalrous means in this like laning example is that ATF is just like doing the proper off-lane things correctly, and that's just slowly whittling TA down a little bit. She's not getting her gank from mid lane. But they face off against one another, they're still laning. Remember what I said? Cannot be eliminated by the same attack, but you can get the same attack multiple times. ATF continues to play the lane well, continues to do proper off-lane mechanics. That gank from TA is still not there yet, so she loses another heart. It's game point now. Unless someone gets more hearts, it's game point. I think this is really interesting so far. It's anyone's game. Can TA get the gank? They're moving out of the laning phase at this point. They're going into the mid game. TA, the mid lanes both start rotating down to this off lane. It's all up to this. Which mid laner can get the pick first? Which mid laner is going to be the more influential gank here? The final attack of these 2. Who's going to be moving on to the grand finals? Oh! And TA, because I rigged this battle so it was so freaking close. TA sneaks it out at the end, being the better sword master. She goes to kill a creep, and the side blade splits and manages to deal the final killing blow to ATF, bringing him down from 1 heart to 0 and winning the losers queue grand finals. TA is going to be moving back on for a rematch against Juggernaut. Let's go, boys. Once again, these 2, such a cute ship. Like, if you're a Dota ship aficionado, you should 100% support these 2. Very cute. But it's not a time for cuteness. In fact, it's a time for killing. Juggernaut was rated the 2nd lowest out of all of these. They get like an automatic like seeding rating. Juggernaut was rated 11. TA was rated 1. Our final last 2, the final competitors. They both face off against one another. They both fought each other at this point. They both have made it through a gauntlet of other people, slowly whittling down their opponents until it's just these 2 left. And they've seen each other before. TA knows Juggernaut's strength. They both lunge at one another, ready for the first blow. And in first blood, Juggernaut, he takes his sword and slashes it, cutting off more of TA's hair. Angering her as you see her eyes grow more and more red with fury. They both land, looking back at one another. TA's down a heart, but they're ready to strike again. Coin flip. Okay, heads is gonna be Juggernaut, tails is gonna be TA. And Juggernaut, they both turn around looking at one another, and Juggernaut, faster than TA can react, quickly dashes forth and cuts down another one of TA's hair strands. I don't know why I'm so obsessed with the hair strands. I don't know. He cuts it across her shoulder, bringing TA down another heart. It's looking rough for TA. I'm trying to give TA bonuses here, but like, Juggernaut, the absolute prowess on this man with the sword, trying to find someone with a similar level of prowess so he could declare them to be part of his people. But TA, it's not looking like she is yet, but they both ready their blades once more. Even though we've been saying that Juggernaut's very holy because of the shrines, I'm giving this one to TA, not just because I'm biased. I think that you can draw a lot of parallels between like Divinity and Dota 2's lore and the hidden ones that TA serves. So TA, she looks at Juggernaut and she takes out her side blade, and like a mysterious flash of energy, they cut across Juggernaut once more. A kind of secret, almost divine-like attack. Truly the power of the hidden ones, which are probably still mortals, but you know, Juggernaut's down to 2, TA's down to 1. TA's still on the brink of death, but Juggernaut's not that far from it. They both size off against one another again. Most recent tweet, is there a... Let me check this real quick. Is there a Juggernaut like roleplay account or parody account? Is that what's called? I'm not seeing any. If there is one for TA, then that would count. Okay, I'm not seeing any parody accounts of the two of them, so we're gonna re-roll this one. They both size off against one another. If this lands, yep, this is gonna be Mountain Dew. Yep, I'm giving this one to TA. 100%. 100%. TA is 100% a gamer girl who drinks Mountain Dew. They both size off against one another. They both lunge at one another, and as they're running at one another like an anime, TA pulls out a flask, uncorks the bottle, and drinks down a gulp of Mountain Dew, which gives her the energy to take out a side blade and throw it, hitting Juggernaut's knee and causing him to stumble, falling forward onto his face and damaging him, taking away one heart. It's match point. At this point, it's lovers' quarrel, the two of them. Whoever takes this can win. This is the final strike. They both look at one another now. Juggernaut looks at TA and realizes that TA holds the prowess to potentially be an honorable one of his people. But the duel's not over yet. They're both still trying to get this dub. They both want victory here. And so they fight once more. You know what? Here's the deal for this one. Earlier we made the argument that Juggernaut was chivalrous and TA is honorable. I'm going to do it like this. They both run at each other once more. TA pulling out a side blade, Juggernaut readying his blade. They get close, look at each other dead in the eyes, and Juggernaut, his blade rose high. He goes to slash down TA, but she dodges out of the way and throws a side blade into his mask, cracking part of it, taking out his last heart. Juggernaut stumbles to the ground. It wasn't a killing blow. Although he's out of hearts, it wasn't a killing blow, because somehow he finds the strength even though his mask is now cracked, something that would have otherwise mortally crushed him. He looks back at TA, the honor, the dedication, and the courage of all of his previous ancestors flowing into him. He gets back one temporary heart to finish this duel with. His ancestors, like all the previous avatars, looking upon him, giving him the strength. It's now or never, Juggernaut. It's true match point at this point. I'm gonna say neither one's able to get a heart. Unless we're gonna need a confident killing blow on this one. They're running at each other. There's small tears flowing out from TA's eyes. You can start to see tears well up in Juggernaut's eye sockets. The strength of his ancestors push him through it. They guide his blade. It going for TA, and it strikes true, taking down TA's last heart and eliminating her from the tournament. And just like that, TA, Sword of Juggernaut slashes across her cloak. It doesn't kill TA, but it's the final blow that TA is willing to take. She falls to her knees, looking at Juggernaut, who stands there, his blade now lowered. Juggernaut drops his blade as he looks at TA in the eyes. Fought well, Juggernaut says to TA. And I'm not even gonna try to do a TA impression. Fought well, fought well. Juggernaut says to TA, looks back at Juggernaut and says something along the lines of like, who were the opponents? And TA falls flat on the ground, face first, not dead but unconscious. With that, the tournament is concluded. The sole victoress of this here tournament is Juggernaut, who managed to beat all odds. Oh, whoops, hang on. Who managed to beat all odds, bring out everything. He found honorable opponents. He proved himself as a competent swordmaster time and time again. He made memories along this journey, but he is the sole stander, the one left at the pinnacle of the tournament. All of those who lost on the ground before him, he looks on as the namesake of this freaking channel. And he says, humph. He says, humph. There's YouTube videos to make here. He says, humph. Hold me, Yanero. Hold me, Yanero. And he takes his prize as the winner of the, I don't know what do we call this? As the winner of the big, sick, awesome Battle Royale tournament, Juggernaut stands victorious. Literally 1-0, only standing by the strength of his ancestors. Congratulations, Juggernaut. Congratulations, Juggernaut, for being the namesake of the channel and actually managing to win this. Does that mean that I won this, technically, in a way? Probably not. but end the tournament. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, hey, props to ACF for going 4-2, by the way. And Juggernaut, I didn't realize Juggernaut went 5-0. He didn't lose one. That beast, dude. Totally not any bias going on from the caster here, by the way. Like, no bias from the caster. from the caster. Totally not someone who's like determining whether or not they win or lose, you know? I think ATF did really good considering how early he fell down. ATF lost the first battle he was a part of. ATF actually unironically did the loser's queue run. He was in the upper bracket, got freaking 4-0'd by Warden, fell down to the lower bracket, and then proceeded to win every single thing until he went to the loser's grand final. But 0-7 for all in lads. AndrewChicken didn't actually die. He's just resting for right now. Some like interesting things to look back on. Chat single-handedly going 0-5 against Juggernaut. I don't know how long it shows this. If you can like take a link. And then, yeah, you can get a link for this. I don't know how long this tournament lasts. I'll put the link. I forgot I named the account this. I may put this link in the description for this. If you want to show this to your friends and be like, hey, by the way, did you know that canonically, ATF is more powerful than Warden in the Dota 2 canon? And if you have anybody who's like, oh yeah, a Space Wolf would actually beat Warden, that's actually was proven to be false. They didn't stop. Anyways, thank you all for watching. This tournament was stupid. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Remember to play Paladins. Remember to play Paladins. Remember to play Paladins.